Remarks and developments from Secretary Austin with Senator Marsha Blackburn, Republican of Tennessee, member of the Judiciary and Veteran Affairs Committees. Senator, just 1 second. I want to take a beat and just show the news that was made when the Secretary was just asked about that whole hospitalization controversy.
Yes.
We did not handle this right, and I did not handle this right. I should have told the president about my cancer diagnosis. I should have also told my team and the American public. And I take full responsibility. I was being treated for prostate cancer. The news shook me, and frankly, my first instinct was to keep it private. The American people have a right to know if their leaders are facing health challenges that might affect their ability to perform their duties, even temporarily.
What went through your mind when you first heard him address that?
Harris, I'm pleased that he admits he made a mistake. But when you are the Secretary of Defense and there is kinetic activity that is taking place, and we have troops that are there in the Middle East, we have troops that are over in Europe, we have activity that is taking place around the Taiwan Straits. You need to realize the severity of that and the importance of letting those around you know. And making the president aware should have been the first thing that he thought to do, not of himself, not of his privacy, but to make certain that the commander-in-chief was aware that he was having an issue.
Well, look, there were a lot of questions about it. And in a later question, he said he didn't want to burden the president with his personal journey because the president had so much going on. If I remember correctly, the president was on vacation. But anyway, Secretary Austin made it very clear about this part of the conversation with regard to Iran. And I would imagine in some corners this makes news. The White House is kind of beating around this. He said, I mean, plain speaking, the United States is not at war with Iran. Watch.
The president will not tolerate attacks on American troops, and neither will I. This is a dangerous moment in the Middle East. We will continue to work to avoid a wider conflict in the region. But we will take all necessary actions to defend the United States, our interests, and our people. And we will respond when we choose, where we choose, and how we choose.
And when he was asked, are we at war with Iran? He said the U.S. is not at war with Iran. Now, here's what the president said earlier today.
Our prayers continue to be with the families of the 3 American servicemen killed and attacked in the FOB in Jordan. Sergeant William Rivers, Specialist Breonna Moffett, and Specialist Kennedy Sanders. I spoke with each of these families separately, and Jill and I will be tomorrow at Dover Air Force Base to receive the dignified transfer of their bodies.
Obviously, the whole nation is mourning with those families. Fox has spoken with the families, and we know that they're grieving mightily, but we are right along with them with our prayers as much as we can be. They need the Lord right now. And moving perhaps into the future now is this idea. Do you think Iran sees it the way we do? Do you think that Iran thinks that we don't think we're at war with them?
Iran has the tendency to be into a skirmish with everyone through their proxies. And Harris, this is what we know. And they have been doing it, whether it's Hamas or Hezbollah or the Houthis or the IRG or ISIS Syria, Iraq. Iran is very content to being a part of the axis of evil right there with Russia, China, and North Korea. And this is one of the reasons we need to put those oil sanctions back on Iran. President Trump had this right in dealing with Iran. Now that they have gotten money under President Biden, what are they doing with it? They are funding these terrorist organizations. These organizations are striking at us. And Iran can say, we didn't carry out this attack It wasn't us, but the attack would not have been carried out without the money, the missiles, the rockets, the armor, the training that is coming from Iran to these terrorist organizations.
Our audience could see it. How the entire time you were talking, that's how long it took to show the 166 times we've been hit since October 17th. Part of that time, the Secretary of Defense was off grid and was communicating somehow or another that he was in the Washington area, which left the Situation Room reportedly with the belief that, well, maybe he's working from home, maybe he's still accessible. That was not true. And looking at where we are now, he was asked specifically about one of the retaliatory strikes, which was very minor coming from us. How confident are you in what you've heard today with Secretary Austin? What should next steps look like?
I am very concerned about what I heard from Secretary Austin. What we do know is that these organizations understand strength and power. And if you are going to deal with them, you have got to take an aggressive step and send that message. President Trump moved forward. He took out Soleimani. That sent a message, and this is the type of step we need to take. We know where these terrorist organizations are. We know who their commanders are. We need to be forceful and send this message. You cannot kill our men and women in uniform. You cannot attack them, and if you do, we are going to hunt you down and take you out.
Secretary Austin seemed to have harsher words for the Houthis than he does Iran. At one point, he said, they have a lot of capability, I have a lot more. You listed all of those Iran-backed groups and terrorists. I mean, they have tentacles that can go in many directions. I know on the Hill, along with the southern border crisis under the current president, I know on the Hill, this has got to be top one or two, just most dangerous threats to the United States. What is the talk? What has to happen next?
Harris, people are very concerned about the Middle East, and Secretary Austin said the Middle East is a very dangerous place right now. Secretary Blinken has heightened what is happening in the Middle East and the concerns that are there. And of course, they do not want a broader war, but here is the nugget they need to remember. Appeasement will lead you to a broader war. Showing strength will stop it. This is why they need to take an action, and this is why they need to make certain that Iran understands in no uncertain terms that they cannot continue to do this.
I'm going to ask my team one more time. Do we have it directly from Austin saying that we are not at war? Okay, they're working on that. I want you to hear it come out of his mouth again, because I think it is one of those things that was said today that communicates so much to our enemy. They can hit us 166 times through the killers that they hire and still have the man at the top of our military say we are not at war with a country that we know is doing this to us.
That's right. And Harris, do you think a President Donald Trump and a Secretary of State Mike Pompeo would have let this situation get this far out of hand, would have seen 166 attacks, would have seen these deaths, would have seen these traumatic brain injuries, would have seen this disruption to a base? No, they would not. And I understand that they need to investigate this and find out why that drone was not taken out. They need to know where that drone was being commanded and who was in charge of it and what that decision was. I appreciate all of that, but I also appreciate the fact that Iran and these terrorist organizations understand one thing, and that one thing they understand is strength. And you cannot continue to embolden Iran. You cannot continue to let them sell their oil and make billions of dollars and then put that money into building nuclear warheads through uranium enrichment and through funding terrorism. Iran is the world's largest state sponsor of terrorism. So when you really break this apart, why would you say that they are not responsible? Why would you not hold them to account for what they are doing with their proxies?
I don't know why. I mean, I know that we're in an election year, re-election for this president, and they don't want a wider war because they keep telling us and telling us and telling us, but you can't be soft on crime by Iran.
That's right.
Yeah. I mean, it's not even working out for us within our own borders. You can't be soft on crime.
That's right.
All right, let's get to this. You and other senators had quite a day with some of the CEOs of giant social media companies yesterday, and things got pretty heated and included a stunning apology to the parents in the room from Meta's CEO, Mark Zuckerberg, and some other intense exchanges. Let's watch together.
There's families of victims here today. Have you apologized to the victims? Would you like to do so now?
I'm sorry for everything that you've all been through. It's terrible knowing that you have to go through the things that your families have suffered. And this is why we invested so much and are going to continue doing industry-leading efforts to make sure that no one has to go through the types of things that your families have had to suffer.
Instagram is harmful to young people, isn't it?
Senator, I disagree with that. That's not what the research shows.
These results may contain images of child sexual abuse. And then you gave users two choices: get resources or see results anyway. Mr. Zuckerberg, what the hell were you thinking? In what sane universe is there a link for see results anyway?
Well, because we might be wrong.
Why it is that Instagram is only restricting, it's restricting access to sexually explicit content, but only for teens ages 13 to 15. Why not restrict it for 16 and 17-year-olds as well?
Senator, my understanding is that we don't allow sexually explicit content on the service for people of any age. How
is that going?
Children are not your priority. Children are your product. Children you see as a way to make money. Mr. Zuckerberg, yes, there are a lot that is slipping through. It appears that you're trying to be the premier sex trafficking site.
Of course not, Senator.
In this country.
Senator, that's ridiculous.
No, it is not ridiculous.
Senator, your thoughts today in watching that back?
It is so interesting that these CEOs could not give us straight answers. And when I asked Mark Zuckerberg if what was happening with this sexually explicit material that is being pushed, not just on the site, but it is actually being pushed to kids. I asked if it violated their terms of service and their community standards, and he would not give me a direct answer on that. He should have said, yes, it violates. Yes, we're taking it down. Yes, we want to do better, but that is not what he said. He said, well, we're taking it down. And as you heard, no, you're not. If you're taking it down, you're doing a pretty sorry job of it because a lot is getting through. There is some research, Harris, that shows that every day 100,000 kids are force-fed sexually explicit material on these sites. It is being pushed to them. They're not looking for it. It shows up in their feed. And of course, we have 42 states' attorneys general that are now suing Meta because of the addictive features that they are pushing forward on children.
That moment when he stood up, turned around, and apologized to those parents, what was that like to be in the room?
You know, I wish that each one of those would have taken their turn at apologizing to those parents. You look at the amount of pornographic material on X. You look at what Snap has done, connecting kids to pedophiles and drug dealers. TikTok, with the kids that have done these TikTok challenges and lost their lives. Discord, which is used for chats in gaming, and kids are meeting really bad actors. Every one of them owed those parents that were in that room an apology, And those kids, friends of kids that had lost their life, that showed up wearing those T-shirts, I'm worth more than $270, which is what Zuckerberg said a teen was worth to them on social media. I thought it was powerful.
Senator Blackburn, very powerful. Great to have you in focus today.
Good to be with you.
Thank you.